So I guess it's Saturday. I usually don't know what days when we do these, but today is Saturday, and that means it's making kimchi with Nathan for this week's for today's Japanese Knife 101. So Ted jumped right in. That's awesome. So what we're gonna do? Yeah. Ted doesn't miss a beat. Ted is is always there. I wish I had my glasses on. Usually I don't. I'm not the one sitting here looking at the computer. That's usually someone else's job. But so it is Saturday. It's 4:00 here in Ottawa, so it's 2:00 in Calgary, and that means we're doing Japanese Knife 101. We've got Nathan with us today. Odds are, if you've sent an email to the hello@knifewear.com, you would have talked to Nathan or Alex. That's what I'm putting my bets on. So,
or if you sent us a message on Instagram, it was probably me helping you too.
Yeah. We had someone today swing by the front door, and you had guided them quite well. So we've got, Japanese Knife 101 is our attempt to entertain and answer any questions that you might have about what we do at Knifewear. Be it, you need to pick out a new knife, you want to grab yourself, I don't know, maybe you need some sharpening gear, or you got a knife that's giving you a hard time, or you're looking for a knife for a certain job, whatever the case may be, that's why we're here. So don't be shy. We are definitely here to help you. So
yeah, especially for the folks that can't or can't make it into one of the stores, or are just trying to be safe and smart, or Ottawa shop. You guys are closed for a little while right now, so trying to give people the same experience in a different way, I think.
Yeah, as best we can, right? So, the Voog is saying thanks for helping Shing with his grill. He'll be a happy man. Yeah, he swung by today. So, Chris, you know him. You know that fella. He seemed really nice. They were really enthusiastic. Those are the best kind of customers.
They were great. I had a gentleman on Instagram today who posted a picture of his bandaged up thumb because he said he came to the door and you or Alex, somebody helped him with a knife, and he got great customer service. And somebody said, "Be careful because it's sharp." And he promptly went and cut something and wasn't careful and cut his thumb. And he was still super happy with it.
Before I worked here, the big test for me was my knife skills were always put to the test after I sharpened my knives. I would always cut myself, and because we always say, a sharp knife is a safer knife. You're less likely to cut yourself with a sharp knife. But I used to always get all these a ton of tiny cuts from when I would go to sharpen after I sharpened my knife, trimming silver skin off, because I worked in a restaurant, right? But I would always I'd always ding up my fingertips, trimming up tenderloins and things like that the day after I sharpened my knife.
Oh yeah, because you use more pressure because you're used to having a not so sharp knife, and then it goes where you want it to much quicker.
It goes, yeah. So we've already started off. We're gonna get into making some. We're gonna get into making some kimchi with Nathan. This is something that
I got a big cabbage.
It's a big hobby for him. Yeah. So we've done this once before during the first lockdown that we went through. But Adam is asking, I got a question here from Adam. What are good stones for getting rid of scratches left over from thinning on a really low grit stone? The best advice I can give you, Adam, is to take baby steps up. Let's presume you started with a 220. Well, next you probably want to go to a 1000. 1000 will get most of it out. It'll start to kind of fog it up a bit, but then you can go to a 2000 grit. And then that's where most of the scratches tend to disappear from. What have you got there? What's that? Knifewear 1000?
So I just ran to my closet and knocked a bunch of shit over trying to do this, but this is my 1000 grit. This is my Knifewear 1000.
Yeah,
I like it because I'm not an amazing knife sharpener. I'm a pretty good knife sharpener, but this guy is soft enough that it'll be a little more forgiving if there's some uneven spots on your blade road or your bevel. This will smooth them out really nice.
Using something like finger stones, Adam, which is something we've been getting into a little bit more. Finger stones will often help get those scratches out of your primary bevel. You can also use, I know Kevin swears by automotive sandpaper. You know, that kind of 400, 600, 1000, like the wet dry automotive sandpaper works really well. But yeah, I would recommend, like Nathan said, I would recommend a softer stone over a hard stone, because kind of getting like building up that slurry on top of your stone is going to help get it into all the spots. So, but really the best thing is like, no, there's no one stone that's going to do it. It's a whole bunch of baby steps. Like if you wanted to do a mirror polish on a knife, after you thinned it out, you'd go like 220. To be perfectly honest, you'd want to do every single stone. You'd want to go like 220, 400, 1000, 2000, 3000, 5000, 8, 10, 12, you know? What do you got there, Nathan?
It depends on what you're okay with too. Like I want to put in some work, but I don't want to spend all day doing it. This is my 0 that I polished up 2 weeks ago or so. And so I did 220, 1000, 6000. And it got nice. Like there's still some kind of imperfections in the bevel, but you know, looks good enough to work well at home. And
that's the kind of sharpening I do too, right? I'm pretty pragmatic about it. I don't get too fussy. You can't, you know what? I don't think if you look like I look, you can't be too particular about the way your knife looks. So
I saw Ted was upset that somebody was trying to expand his knife collection by posting pretty pictures on Twitter. That's my fault, Ted. Sorry about that.
That's Nathan's fault. That's Nathan's job. If you find Instagram and Twitter and Facebook too tempting, Nathan is your knife incubus, I guess is the right word.
To blame. I like that.
Your kimchi cam went all squirrely. But why don't we talk about what you're doing today?
Yeah. Well, hold on 1 second. I'm going to try to restart this. Well, let's just leave that for a second. Let's see if that gets any better. Chris, the knife that's on the board. Oh, I think it went back there, Chris. This is a Moritaka 240. There we go. 240 millimeter Guto. I'm just getting used to the secondary camera here. This guy was my first Japanese knife. Before that, I had a good Henkel's chef's knife. Okay, I don't know if the B cam is going to work so good today, but I had a Henkel's chef's knife, and then I got really excited because I walked into Knifewear and saw all these pretty knives, and I was, I think, 18 or 19 at the time, and I couldn't afford to buy a nice Japanese knife, so I got my family to give me gift certificates on my birthday and all that kind of business, and eventually I could afford a Moritaka. And I love it because it's rustic and it's made by like a 700-year-old family. So it's just a super cool, pretty knife.
My first knife from Knifewear was a Moritaka. It was a 240 Kiritsuke, actually.
Oh,
very similar.
Very similar then. Yeah.
Here, I'm going to turn that camera off.
Yeah.
There we go. So we don't have to look into it. If it turns back on, I can, we can do it. Or you can always just point your computer at your cutting board once we get going.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, why don't we kind of jump into it? Because I think a lot of people here have shown up wondering about kimchi. So you're clearly, Nathan, you're clearly from Korea. So you're a kimchi expert.
And that's the thing is, so I'm obviously not from Korea, or have, I've never worked in a Korean restaurant. When I'm cooking food from a different culture, for me, it's really important to just do my research. Like, not find like Rachel Ray's version of kimchi, but like go through some websites that, were written by people from Korea and have authentic recipes, and kind of learn about how the history of a dish got developed and what the more traditional ways of making it are, whether it's a seasoning or the method, just so I have a better understanding of it and I'm not just making like kind of a farce of a dish. Restaurants as a kid, but this was my introduction to how it was actually made. And this is probably the first time I read a recipe about fermenting, was in David Chang's Momofuku cookbook. More recently, I've got into a lot more in-depth fermenting, and I've been reading this guy a lot, which I think we sell at Knifewear.
We do, yeah. Whenever
and
we
it's
can
got
get
a lot of good sciencey stuff into it. I'm going to try to keep off of the really intense science for the first chunk, just kind of talk about technique, and then later on, if somebody wants to like get into the nerdiness of fermenting, we can get more technical. But kimchi is basically a lacto fermented cabbage dish. Generally, it has Nappa cabbage. It's got Gochugaru, which is a Korean chili flake that's really good. Those are some of the most important ingredients. There's often carrot, pear, green onion, some form of seafood, often like a shrimp or a scallop. But the really important thing is salt, cabbage, and spice, and that's kind of the core of it. My recipe was kind of based off of David Chang's to start with, and then I experimented and did more research, looking to more traditional recipes, and so I've kind of got my. I don't really deviate from this anymore, but this is my recipe. I think I posted it up on Instagram, and I'll be happy to share it afterwards and maybe post it online. But basically, what we're going to be doing today, we've got obviously a big knife, something nice and sharp that you're going to do what you're cutting with. A big vessel where we're going to salt our cabbage and get it breaking down. You need a couple of vessels to actually do your fermenting in. I like these big sealer jars. These are from IKEA. They're nothing fancy, but they do a great job. You can use, like Ted was asking about an earthenware ongi. I don't have a traditional fermenting vessel, but I would like to get like a big crock, something that I can do any kind of ferment in, whether it's kimchi or just like regular cabbage, like sauerkraut. I think that'd be great. I got lots of friends that make ceramics.
Nathan's birthday is in June. If you wanted to buy that for him.
I wouldn't mind.
Yeah, Nathan's birthday is in June.
Yeah, it's coming up soon, actually. It's time flies. You want a blender or a food processor of some kind? And then for ingredients, we've got a few fresh ingredients. We've got our Nappa cabbage, one enormous oversized carrot, a whole bunch of green onions. Mm-hmm. A couple of pears. These are optional, but fairly classic to put some sort of fruit like apple or apple pear or just a regular pear in.
Well, what's an apple pear? I never heard of an apple pear before.
What? You've never had those?
No. What's an apple pear?
Well, some people call it like an Asian pear.
Oh, like a Nashi pear.
Yeah.
Okay. I never heard of that before.
Yeah. It's as far as I'm aware, it comes from Southeast Asia, but I'm not super familiar on them. But anything that's got that kind of crisp flavor with some nice natural sugars, this is just going to add a bit of like body and flavor. And then lots and lots of ginger and garlic, really important. We're going to have a ton of that. And then a few wet ingredients. We've got fish sauce. I don't know if this is traditional or not, but it just adds some funk to it. Soy sauce, of course.
Oh, that's the fancy stuff.
Oh yeah, well this is the gluten-free stuff.
Only the best.
We gotta be careful. We got some brown sugar. We got, like I said, the Korean chili flakes. Salt. I just use like the rough kosher stuff. And then this is an optional ingredient as well, but this is Korean salted shrimps, and they just add a little bit of funk to it. There's a lot of, I guess, sort of thought or superstition that you need some seafood in kimchi to get the ferment going, but it's actually just a lacto ferment. So you just need salt and lactic acid bacteria, which are everywhere. But the seafood adds a bit of funkiness, which is really good.
That's cool. So yeah, so essentially it's a differently flavored sauerkraut.
Yeah, the chemical
same science behind
the exact same. Yeah, it's the same bacteria that are doing the work. You've just got a lot more flavorings added in with the kimchi, different style of cabbage, but same idea, same concept. Pretty much anywhere in the world, there's some sort of fermented dish that's made with something like cabbage or pickles, or it exists pretty much everywhere. It's just what kind of dish it's made in and what ingredients.
Yeah. Do you have your mega nikiri at home today? Dr. G was asking if you might use it a little bit.
I lent it to a buddy of mine. So I don't. I'm really sorry.
Must be some friend. Oh, you've gone all quiet. When you're not centered for some reason, we can't hear you very well.
Really? I wonder if I'm coming in through my my headphones or through. I'm just checking my audio input.
There we go.
Is that better?
Yeah, that sounds better. Yeah.
Okay, nice. Cool. We'll just keep it there. Awesome.
Cool.
So yeah, we'll do another cooking show maybe in 2 weeks, and I'll figure out something else like this to make. If anybody has suggestions, I'll bust out the mega nikiri for that. Yeah. Any questions before we get going?
No, we had a question. Adam was asking about sharpening, but just a reminder, while we're doing this, you know, the purpose of the purpose of this is to kind of help you guys along the, you know, your knife curiosities, right? So it's not, we're not trying to this, you know, if Nathan doesn't get the kimchi made, it's just par for the course. We never managed to actually talk about what we're supposed to talk about. So don't be shy. Don't feel like you're interrupting. If you've got any questions, you know, it'd be great. It'd be great for you to ask them. Someone who is less or who is more shy might be too nervous to ask.
Yeah,
so,
totally.
Yeah. Well, why don't we jump into it?
Cool. Sounds good. So I'm just going to angle this down towards my cutting board.
Oh, that looks good.
Does that look okay? Is that bright enough?
Oh, for sure.
So,
Here, and I'll even do that. Look, now we can see.
Oh, thanks, buddy.
Yeah.
I'm going to be cutting a bunch of cabbage. So I've got like a 5-pound Nappa cabbage here, and I can cut it with santoku. But look how tiny this knife is compared to the cabbage. It's just going to get lost. So I would recommend having at least a 240.
240 is a good cabbage size knife. What size of cutting board are you using?
This is the larchwood medium. I finally bucked up and got a larchwood a couple of years ago, and I'm sad I didn't get one earlier. I would almost upgrade to the large, but I live in an apartment right now, and so I might upgrade like when I move, if we eventually move into a house or something.
I just so we've got, just to answer a couple questions here, I popped it in the comments there, Dr. G. That's the medium larchwood board. And then Dork182 is asking if that's a Takeda, and that's a Moritaka Ishime. So, but it does look like the older Takedas.
Totally.
Yeah, the older Takedas were a little more like kind of spotty with the Karochi, but that there is going to be
the original rosewood handle too, which you don't see anymore.
Yeah, that's what I've got too. Although I do like the cherry handles on the Moritakas.
Yeah.
I know a lot. Some people got a little worked up about it, but I like it.
I like it a lot too. So you'll often see traditionally in Korea, they'll make the spice paste for the kimchi and then actually work it in between all the leaves and ferment it like held together by the stem. And the reason I'm not going to do that today is because I'm fermenting in these little jars, and I personally don't really need or care to be able to cut up my kimchi before I use it. I'm just going to cut it all up, and then when I want to use it and put it into a dish, it's just ready to go. So I'm going to cut my cabbage into fairly large chunks. There's different schools of thought about that, but it's just personal preference. One thing I'm going to mention quickly, we are fermenting. Sanitation is not completely necessary, but make sure like your hands are clean. I've removed my rings and my watch because I don't want them getting all of kimchi-y, and I don't want bacteria that's not natural not wanted getting into my kimchi. And then whatever vessels you're using, like you can go nuts and sterilize everything. I would only do that if I'm brewing beer or something. But if I'm doing a natural ferment, I'm just going to wash them with soap and water, and that's good enough.
Yeah, one of the things that they always tell you if you're getting into canning, in particular, is to pour boiling water or whatnot into them ahead of time.
Yeah.
Like what Nathan's saying, but he's going to eat the kimchi. Like the kimchi's not going to last that long. Like one head of cabbage.
It's not sitting at room temperature on a shelf for 6 months.
Yeah, it'll be a week or two at room temperature to ferment, and then he'll probably stick it in jars and then put it in the fridge. Right?
Yeah, so exactly. And it's going to live, and it'll keep for a long time in the fridge. It will get funkier, but I like it pretty intense. So we're just going to cut our kimchi into like kind of big pieces, right? Like kind of 2-inch pieces. It doesn't matter super seriously. You might want to cut these core pieces down smaller, but I really like the big crunchy pieces of kimchi, so I'm going to leave them as is.
The fun part about this, everybody, is that before we got started, Nathan and I were talking about what I used to call the real culinary Olympics. So there is a competition that occurs where you would all these like different countries have representatives. They go to, I think it's in Germany. They go and they compete against one another. But I used to always joke that the actual culinary Olympics should be based on real kitchen skills. Like, is this container big enough for what I'm doing? Or can you pour a pot of soup into a bucket and not spill it? Like things like that, you know? How long does it take you?
Can you get oil into one of these bottles without getting it everywhere?
Oh, exactly, you know? So it'll be interesting to see how Nathan does with his containers and his cabbage today.
Now, obviously, like my cabbage, these are my fermenting containers that I'm using today. My cabbage, 1/2 is much bigger than my container, but this cabbage is going to break down a lot, right? We've got it in this Cambro here. That's half my cabbage. So this thing's going to be full, but then we're going to add salt to it, and that's going to break it down a ton. And that's going to make it.
So Nathan, Ted is asking if you're going to do the primary fermentation in the Cambro, but you're going to salt everything in the Cambro, and then once you get it mixed up, move it to the jars, right?
Exactly. Yeah. So you could ferment in a larger vessel like the Cambro. I'm just a fan of sealer jars, but Cambros I've heard are actually really good for that. I just have a limited number of these. I only have a couple Cambros, and I don't want to flavor them like kimchi potentially. I want to use them for other stuff.
Yeah, well, for God's sake, most restaurants only have a couple of Cambros. You're in an apartment. That's like,
it's true.
You're living a different life, you know.
I'm pretty sure there's a restaurant that has a couple less Cambros because I have a couple.
Oh, you should see some of the stuff I got. I got hotel pans. I got hotel pans at home.
Man, I love those things. Those are fantastic.
Yeah, I even use hotel pans like in the store for like carrying. I'm just used to them. There's something about them. As much as I talk about hating working in restaurants, there are certain things that just carried over. Like a bus bin is perfect for moving things around. You know, if it doesn't fit in a bus bin, you probably have too much of it. To be honest.
I agree. So yeah, to answer your question more directly, Ted, I'm going to use the Cambro to salt my kimchi and let it break down and get all the water out. And then I'm going to mix it with my paste, like all my flavorings, and put it into the jars today. And then when we come back in 2 weeks, if we do a fermenting show next week, maybe that's when I'll pull kimchi, because I usually do a longer ferment, and it's not super hot right now. It's winter, so it'll probably take 2 full weeks for it to ferment, and we could check in on it next in 2 Saturdays and go from there.
That's a good idea. Maybe put something else on.
Oh, yeah, I think so.
Meki is saying that his cupboard is full of deli cups, and I have an easier time drinking out of a deli cup than I do a wine glass.
Yeah, I feel you, man. We should just have deli cups full of something for this show.
We should, yeah. I should be drinking, or like I used to always drink coffee when I worked at the gastropub. I'd always drink coffee out of a water glass. I would drink like a water glass of coffee at a time. And I just put we had the cardboard sleeves. I just put it over that so I could get more coffee into me at once. So I don't know where Nathan went. He just ran away. He's got a pot. That's what he said.
So speaking of the Culinary Olympics, all of the kimchi does fit in here, but there's no room for me to actually get in and mess it about with the salt.
No. So that's really going to cut into Nathan's potential of getting a place on the podium in this particular event.
Dude,
now,
I am so rusty that there's no way.
As he is the only competitor, he will likely still place. See, because now his headphones keep cutting out. He can't defend himself against my chirping. He can hear it, but he can't say anything.
All right. I knew something would go wrong today. I had everything. I had all my mise en place set up, but I was too cocky with the size of that Cambro. And it bit me.
It got you. So Dork182 is asking, how's the larchwood feel when cutting? They mainly use a 4-inch Boost maple end grain cutting board. Any comparison? I'd like to have something smaller that isn't 40 plus pounds. The biggest difference is going to be that the larchwood board is a softer wood than maple. So your knife, it'll offer less resistance against the as compared to the maple. Like it's a very smooth cutting feel. And you can kind of feel like the knife is kind of working in there with it a little bit better. It's not going to, I don't want to tell you that it feels like you're cutting into the board, but it kind of feels like.
It doesn't feel like you're cutting against the board. Like if you ever used a
Yeah.
bamboo board or one of those, I used to have an Epicurean board, which I thought was the best thing ever. But then I just realized it was destroying the edges of my knives because they're so hard.
Dishwashing would be an event in the Culinary Olympics. In the dishwashing categories, Dr. G, you would find things such as how many garbage bags can you haul out to the curb at once without breaking a bag? You would also find things like how hot of a dish can you grab without using a towel? That would also be another event. Yeah. How drunk or stoned can you be and still do your job? Also in the dishwashing category, at least in the type of restaurants I worked in.
Yeah. I'm with you. I was a diner cook for a while, which was one of the most fun jobs I've ever had, but there was rarely anybody that was completely sober on shift.
Yeah.
Okay, so I've got all my cabbage cut. I've got around 5 pounds of cabbage, roughly. I've got about quarter or a third of a cup of salt. A lot of lacto ferments I'll do by weight. Like when I'm making say sauerkraut or especially like lacto pickle, something that's very texture dependent, I will weigh out my salt precisely. When I'm making kimchi, the salt's just there. As long as you have over 2% salt and under, I think it's 8 or 10%, the lactic acid bacteria can thrive. And you can mess with your percentages and they'll give you different effects. But as long as you're over that 2% range, you're going to get fermentation. And unless you actually just salt the shit out of it, you'll be fine. So we're gonna just give this a toss. And some people like to really press on it, like bruise the cabbage. Salt does most of the work on its own. I'm just gonna salt it and let it sit. And I think in the next 45 minutes to an hour, we'll have a nice brine going, and we'll be able to get it packed into jars. We'll just toss it every so often. I know in the Momofuku book they mentioned letting it sit for a day with the salt, and that'll work great if you have that kind of time and planning. I don't usually when I want to make a fermented product. I'm like, fuck it, I got an hour today. I'm gonna go make some sauerkraut. And
that's how Nathan does the majority of things in his life. Like Nathan is a last minute hero.
Fly by the seat of my pants, which is great because when you ask me to show up and just do something last minute for you, I almost always can, but
he always
not
can.
always so strong on the planning front.
There's something about it,
Okay, so our cabbage is salted and it's sitting. We're going to work on basically the flavor of the kimchi, and that's going to be a combination of things. We're going to have some more salt brought in. That's why we didn't actually use a ton of salt. Again, only about a quarter of a cup. We got lots of salt coming in from fish sauce and soy sauce. We've got the spicy chili flakes. This is a kind of Korean chili flake called Gochugaru, and it's one of the most important ingredients. If you don't use that, it's just probably not going to taste really like kimchi. Got some brown sugar. We got our salty shrimps. Again, this and the fish sauce is optional. You don't need seafood in kimchi to make it ferment, but it is fairly traditional and it does add a lot of good funky flavor. Then we got some other things to kind of sweeten it up. So we'll deal with that later. I'm just going to measure out some ingredients and I'll shout them out. But if anybody has, questions or that kind of thing, it's probably a good time to get them in.
Dr. G is asking if it would add flavor if you don't wash your hands for a few days before tossing your kimchi. Likely, but doesn't make it a good flavor. And then Adam is asking if Gochugaru is the same as gochujang.
Gochujang, yeah. So there's and now I have a passing familiarity with an expertise in Korean food. You should definitely ask about this in a restaurant or get a book on Korean cooking. But Gochugaru is the chili flake. So this is basically just like the peppers that are dried and crushed, right? It's just similar to, just regular chili flakes that we would use, but it's from a specific kind of chili pepper. The gochugaru or gochujang is, I think that's what they're referring to, is it's a paste, and so I've heard some people say it's kind of like Korean ketchup, but it's not really. It's got like a very rich, almost corn starch thickened quality to it. It's generally made with lots of sugar and spices, and that's what you would use to make like a lot of your sauces and marinades and that sort of thing. So it's the similar flavor, and it comes from the same source, but it's a different kind of application that you're going to use it for.
I've bought both in TNT, not knowing what I was buying. That's usually how I end up with stuff like that.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Mount Everest puts it well. It's like a chili paste, but with more umami. Yeah.
Cool.
It's really good for like soup bases. If you want to make like a spicy stew with like some brisket or some pork belly that's going to warm you up, use some gochugaru and or gochujang, and it's just going to it's like fire in your belly that just keeps you warm all winter.
Nice. I know that guy. I've watched a little bit of that. I don't know. I can't remember his name. Brad something or other on Bon Appetit. Yeah, he loves that stuff. He uses that any chance he can get.
And now it got to the point where it was really, really trendy. And I think it's important to, when we're talking about food from other cultures, it's important to definitely like recognize the origin of it and the importance of certain traditions and kind of be aware of those. But yeah, it's become really popular because I think people just finally realized how fucking good Korean food is.
Yeah. Well, isn't that what that whole? I didn't watch. I don't watch nearly as much food television as anyone probably presumes I do. But isn't that what that David Chang show, Ugly Delicious, was about? Like, there was a lot about that, wasn't it? About kind of like people kind of smartening up when it came to
about the history and the politics behind it, and the reasons why things are done a certain way, and having a respect for it and understanding of that. Because there's nothing wrong with breaking the rules, but then there's just going and making a dish without any awareness of the culture behind it, which is where it gets kind of problematic. So I think that show did a really good job of just highlighting the cultures behind food and why they're important and valuable and awesome. So
I think Dr. G, I think you're right. Gochugaru is a kaiju that sacked Tokyo a number of times. Yeah. I think you're right.
Oh, hey, Dork is saying Portland doesn't have many Korean restaurants, which is a shame. Do you live in Portland? I've got a couple of buddies over in Portland.
He's gonna send them over to your house to harass you. Don't tell him. Keep it to yourself.
Okay, so we're gonna make our kind of marinade, like our flavor paste for the kimchi. I've got some fish sauce. The recipe calls for about 1/4 of a cup, and I didn't quite have that much. But this is a much stronger kind of fish sauce. This is the squid brand, and it's pretty intense. So a little bit less is totally fine.
Adam Yarbo is asking any good book recommendations specifically about pickling. Nathan's got a copy of the Noma Guide to Fermentation there. That's a really good one. There's also one that I haven't been able to, I have a copy of it at home and I haven't been able to find it in a really long time, but it's the River Cottage did a really good book on pickling as well. The River Cottage books are great if you can find them. We used to sell them in the store, but we haven't been able to get them.
Yeah, and there's pickling and then there's fermenting, right? Like the Noma book covers a lot of different kinds of fermenting really well. Yeah. But if you're looking to talk about vinegar pickling, you might honestly be better off with an old Eastern European book that you could find at a thrift store.
Yeah, a lot of church cookbooks are good for that. Sean grabbed this and dropped it off. It's a book called Mastering Fermentation. It's one that's been out a little bit longer than the Noma book, but it's got some good stuff in here too, making vinegars. I know Kevin likes to make vinegar quite a bit, so if you wanted to find out about that, he's back next week. He was on vacation this week. He's been harassing me nonstop, sending me pictures of, because we've been talking about this Operation Come Home, this 24 hours of, or this $24 challenge. And so he calls me every day with like research he's done. He's been like hitting up the dollar store versus like the Korean market versus whatever. So,
Cool.
But what was that you were chopping up, Nathan?
So this is some brown sugar, and I put the camera down to the cutting board because I wanted people to see the knife I was using. If you're going to cut up like hard, dried up brown sugar, use the knife with the two guys on it.
The two-guy knife.
Don't use the nice handmade Japanese knife because you're going to chip your knife. There are certain things you just, as tempted as you may be or as lazy as you might be, just don't do it with your Japanese knife.
That's why I've had to repair any of my Japanese knives. It was drunken laziness.
Yeah, totally. It's you know not to do that thing, but you've done it because you've had a few drinks too many and you just don't want to grab your other knife. So I've got my fish sauce. I've added a 1/4 cup of brown sugar. You're going to see sugar coming into this from a couple of different sources. We've got the brown sugar and the pear. Sugar is not necessary for a ferment, but it just adds some flavor, adds some depth. There is more sugar in Korean cooking than there is in a lot of like other varieties of East Asian cooking. And part of it, I think, is because there's a lot of spice as well. There's a lot of intense spice, but it just adds another dimension. And a lot of recipes call for white sugar, but I prefer brown sugar because it's just got a little more depth to it and it's a little bit nicer. Yeah, more flavor. Exactly.
Mount Everest is asking any tips for dealing with brown sugar that's turned into a rock. The only thing that I've ever really done with any success is pop it in the microwave with a moist paper towel put over top of it for a little bit. Start with like 30 seconds, see where that gets you. 30 seconds might be too much.
Hack at it like a caveman with your Henkel's knife.
Yeah. I don't know. Start with 15 seconds, see where that goes. Dr. G, it's funny you say that because Dr. G is saying next episode we should make homemade fish sauce. Well, I made hot sauce in my house. I make a fermented hot sauce. I did it on the counter, and for 2 weeks, my family, it was like they were being mustard gassed every day. They hated me. I told them that I pay the mortgage, so I'll do what I want.
I like that.
Yeah.
My spouse and my roommate don't care if I have weird fermenting stuff on the counter because it means they get to eat it afterwards. But it definitely, this kimchi is going to make the kitchen smell a little bit. Dr. G, no joke, I want to make homemade fish sauce, but I think I will be living alone pretty soon if I do that at my current house. We're going to wait till we have like a house with like a field, and we'll do it on the other side of the field from the house or something.
Oh, like out in the shed.
Yeah, exactly.
Nathan's fermenting shack.
Oh, you know there will be one. The fermenting, butchering, and cheese making shack, probably.
Yeah.
So I've added a little water and a little bit of soy sauce, 2 tablespoons of each. Water just helps to blend the rest of the ingredients because we're going to throw a bunch of ginger and garlic and stuff into this. So we don't want
what you were doing with that blender.
We don't want it to be too thick. Yeah. You could just hand chop all this flavor stuff, but I'm lazy. I'm just going to use the blender. It works.
If only you have like a really nice Japanese knife to do that with.
I should look into that, hey?
You should. There's new Haruyuki knives coming out. You should get one of those.
Yeah, I want that shiso petty. I can't remember if it was Ted. I think it was Ted was saying on Twitter that he picked one up just this week. And I really
they're wicked. Yeah, I like that 135 size for a petty.
I don't own a Haruyuki knife yet, but I think that'll be the first one.
Sure. Yeah, I got the Yokuma. No, not a Yokuma. I got a Kuma 210, which I quite like. I like those, but I like the Kokudos too. Like I don't know. I'm always like, I'm in between like ultra finicky and sharp versus what can't my kids destroy so quickly. So
yeah, totally. So 3/4 cup of Gochugaru. This stuff's really great, by the way, for cooking. You don't just have to use it when you're making kimchi. You can put it into marinades, like any puffer piece of meat that you're going to grill, like a flank steak or a pork shoulder steak. It would be really, really good. I've used it to braise or marinate meat for tacos with a bit of like crushed up orange peel. That was really good. So it's a really versatile spice. It's a little more fruity, and almost floral, like lighter and fresher than a lot of dried chilies. It doesn't have the smokiness of like a Mexican dried chili, but it's really good.
Dr. G, the new Haruyukis are gonna. There's 3 new. We've got 1 now, and I think the other 2 just got here too. There's one. There's the Kuri, which is the jet. So the neat thing about Haruyuki is that the names they all come from ingredients that go into making shochu. So shochu is, it's a pretty broad style of alcohol, but there's the Kuri, which is name is chestnut. It's the Japanese name for chestnut. Those are made out of an AUS 10. So think about something a little more entry level, a little bit tougher, and that's going to have a Damascus finish. I don't know if I've seen one face to face yet. And then there's going to be the soba, which is the word for buckwheat, is made out of a steel called ZA18, with a Damascus finish and a Western handle. Now, we did have those. We had a handful of them in the last garage sale. And then one that I do have in the Ottawa store, which is let its kind of plain appearance throw you off, but which is made out of SRS 13, so it's a harder powdered steel, but it's just got this magnolia and paca handle. SRS 13 is a powdered stainless steel, super hard, going to stay stupid sharp for a long time, but it's only $203. So this is like
shockingly cheap for the quality of steel.
Yeah. So it's I'll just hand that off to Vanna here.
So check this out. That cabbage has only been sitting for about 15 minutes, and I didn't press it or anything, but it's already getting very kind of wilty, and you can see the dark spots where it's starting to break down and wilt. Salt. That's 15 minutes in the salt. It's pretty shrunk down.
Yeah, it doesn't take very long.
Oh. Salt is an amazing ingredient for so many reasons. But when you get fermenting and start learning the other stuff that salt can do, it's really quite incredible. So now I'm going to transfer this to my camera just so we can kind of see the shrinkage as it happens.
The shrinkage with Nathan. That's a different video.
The shrinking.
This is what happens when you get. So this is this is what happens when we do a video at the end of the week, and there's nobody that I feel I'm held accountable to around. So I just say whatever I want, and hopefully no one gets too offended. Charlie is asking if this means that the older Haruyuki lines are going to get replaced. Nope, they're just expanding their offerings, which is a lot of fun. And then Adam is saying, surprise, Kevin said the Shinogis won't be coming in 210 and 240 Gyutos. Yeah, I'm not 100% sure the reason of that, Adam, but that's my understanding too, that there were Petties, Santokus, Nikiris, maybe just a smaller line. SRS 13 is a newer steel. We've seen a couple of knives from Kurosaki made with it, but that was the first time I heard about that steel. And the Kotetsu Yanagiba is made out of SRS 13. So not widely available, so maybe that has more to do with it. They're just kind of focusing on, the best-selling shapes for the time being. Because you'd be surprised, Santokus, as much as I like a 240 Gyuto, we sell way more Santokus than we do Gyutos.
Well, yeah, and
we can't hear you, Nathan. You wandered off again.
I keep forgetting my mic's having trouble. So I think with a lot of those knife lines, there's only so many knives that a maker can produce at a given amount of time. I think they're probably focusing in on the popular shapes for now, and then hopefully they'll expand it from there.
Yeah, well, that's like, so we got a new knife. We don't have pictures on the website yet, but Nathan told me about this earlier. Those Shu and Shiro Shu from Masashi, we just got Hanasukis in that shape. So I know earlier there was some comments there about like, let's you want a Hanasuki, like you had mentioned to someone, Nathan, about wanting a Hanasuki, and they said get the Moritaka. I got to see what one of these Masashis looked like first. I could totally be convinced to buy a Damascus.
In a lot of ways, because you know how a lot of Hanasukis are a little too thin and they've got a really tall kind of bevel.
Mm-hmm.
The shiroshu and kuroshu, they're much thicker the way the moritaka is, and their bevel's not nearly as narrow. It's much fatter and much tougher, and the bevel's only like a centimeter thick, so they're a lot more like the moritaka.
That's dangerous for me.
Yeah, I don't own a Hanasuki yet, and I was gonna get the hammer tone, and I don't think I'm getting that one anymore. I think I'm getting the kuroshu.
Yeah, I only have one Hanasuki, so I need another one because I've got two hands and I could butcher chickens faster with a knife in both hands. Yeah,
absolutely. They just cut off your hands.
For all the times butchering more than one chicken at a time for my household of 5.
Yeah.
All right. So we got, it's all been salted. Dr. G made a joke about cold water and shrinkage.
Of course.
Keeping it going. Yeah. Here, we'll just put that up there on the screen for everyone to have a chuckle.
So we've got, we had 6 liters of cabbage to start and 20 minutes of salt, and it's already shrunk down to almost 4 liters. So it happens pretty quick. So I've got my chili pepper in there now, my Gochugaru. We're going to add a couple other things. We've got our salted shrimp, and this is exactly what it sounds like. It's just like little tiny baby shrimps that have been packed in salt and preserved. There's a lot of different applications. Like some folks will just eat them straight on rice. They're pretty funky, and that's what they really add to the kimchi is a lot of funk. Don't do what I did and buy the 500-gram container because I've had this for 3 years, and it's like I haven't even used all of it yet. Get like the smallest container you can because we're only going to use about 3 tablespoons or so of these.
But you could use that with like I like kind of in lieu of that. Like I've seen salted scallops, like dried scallop used in this. You know, like the little itty bitty fish too.
Look at those little guys.
I like sea monkeys.
Delicious. They're tiny. You can see their tiny little eyes. They're like sea monkeys.
You're so macabre.
All right, what else are we throwing in here? We got our shrimp, soy sauce, gochugaru, fish sauce, brown sugar. We're gonna chop up some garlic, ginger, and pear, and then we'll be ready to give it a blend.
Yeah, Meki says you could just make more. You could just make more kimchi.
It's true. I still haven't used them all. So I'm gonna use about 30 cloves of garlic here. A lot of garlic.
How many?
About 30.
Holy shit.
Yeah.
How are you going to peel all that?
I'm going to do the bowl trick.
That's a good trick.
Yeah. That's part of the culinary. How fast can you peel like 100 cloves of garlic?
Yeah. Oh, Dr. G's got a good question. If you could make your own new knife shape or design, what would it look like and what would I use it for? Man, what would I need? Trying to think about what I need doing.
Would you do a knife for like barbecue somehow?
I could, yeah. You know what I like actually? This is what I would make. I would make a gyuto that was like, picture the Tatafusa bread knife.
Yep.
But a gyuto. The last 2 inches of a gyuto are serrated. And I would use that for barbecue, for slicing brisket.
Oh yeah. That was actually what I was thinking too.
Or even like, you know, like a 360, like my 360 Moritaka, but with like the last inch of it being kind of serrated. I think that would be a perfect brisket knife. Because as good as that my Moritaka is, if you've got a really thick bark on a piece of barbecue, it's hard to slice with a sharp knife. Like you do need something a little bit toothier sometimes.
I would use something like that for bread because I make bread at home, and I prefer to slice it with a gyuto. But getting through that crust would be a bit. So I really like that idea of like serrated on the end, and then the rest is just a regular blade.
Yeah. Yeah, Kevin and I have also talked about, like the Tojiro used to have the American utility knife.
Yeah.
So it's like this. I'll draw a picture of it because it's so weird. But it's like, picture like a breakfast spreader. Oh my God, this is the worst knife ever, guys.
I can't see you there. We got to see you.
Have I disappeared? Oh yeah. Here, I'm very little. I'm very small, but now I'm big. Look, I got big. So, but it's like this. Oh my God, this is pathetic. So it's like this weird, like oval that's serrated on the bottom with just like a handle. So yeah. I had one of those. Oh, but Usyk asks him, what steel? Shit, Usyk, I don't know. You guys are asking hard questions.
Do you know what I really want? I want a more European style boning knife that's like long and skinny and has some flex, but made out of harder steel, like AEB or something like that.
Yeah, that'd be cool. Yeah. He's asking if you've got an earpiece that you can use.
Yeah, I'm using mine right now. Let me see. One sec. Let me fuck around with my settings a little bit.
Yeah. But then what else could I like that American, like that idea of the American utility knife. Like, it seems silly, but it's a really good shape. Like, I bought one when Tojiro still made them, and it was it's a pretty fun knife. Like, for like, I make lunch for my kids, right? So I make a lot of sandwiches. I'm making like
is that audio better now? I just tried switching it.
I think so. Turn around and say hello.
One sec. Can you still hear me?
I sure can. Yeah, I think you fixed it.
Test. Okay, cool, awesome. Right. Yeah, I think it was still coming in through the laptop and not through these guys. Thanks for mentioning, guys. Like I said, if you guys ever have a problem with the audio or video, just let us know. We'll do what we can. We're gonna get some mics and some better webcams pretty soon here. But in the meantime, if we can improve it, let us know.
Look at that, guys. I'm going pro.
Okay, so we got our bowl full of garlic. We got like 30 or 40 cloves of garlic, and then we got another bowl. This is how you peel garlic really fast. Just put a bowl inside a bowl.
That's also the type of music Nathan likes.
Yeah, it's called Kraftwerk.
Yeah, I've we should sell coffee mugs that are just our hair and beard outlines. The thing about my hair and beard fighting Usyk is that I'm just a bit of a joke, to be honest.
You should show everyone the ponytail.
Oh, yeah. So this, if you guys want, like, this like grosses my kids out. My hair's hasn't been this long since I was a kid. But I just, look at that.
I love it.
Yeah. I come out of the the shower in the morning with my wet hair, and I tie it back in a ponytail, and my daughters just scream at me until I take it out.
All you need is like a gold chain tangled up in your chest hair, and it'll complete the look.
Yeah.
So all the garlic's peeled. Less of a pain in the ass than doing it by hand.
You ever seen any of those? Oh, go ahead.
Well, I also find just like crushing the garlic under like a cast iron pan or something, just crushing it all in one go, that loosens up the skin quite a lot too, and that's a pretty easy and a little bit less noisy way if you want a quick way to peel it.
And I guess it just depends on the amount you're doing too, right? Like if you're doing 30 cloves, like I think that's the best way, like the way you're doing it. If you're doing 5 or 6, like I've actually got just like a little like 4-inch skillet that just like that's my kitchen hammer. Really. Yeah.
That's my kitchen hammer. Except for this, which is my actual kitchen hammer.
Oh, nice.
I have a kitchen hammer. Okay, that guy's good for butchery, if you need to get through bones and you got like a rib bone to cut through, you just instead of like swinging away like a caveman with your cleaver, you just line it up and smash on it with a mallet, and it does the job great.
I think a really wise man told you that once. Oh, what is going on? Dr. G's got good questions today. If we were each Iron Chef,
good questions.
What cuisine type would you and your partners be?
Each Iron Chef. I think mine would be like diner food or something.
Yeah, I owned a restaurant here in Ottawa, Dr. G, and we did a lot of like Southern food, like very kind of like South Carolina, like kind of low country sort of stuff. Oh shit, my dad's watching.
Hey Daniel, heard good things about you.
So I would kind of say that, like kind of more, like I definitely kind of more of a comfort food sort of thing, but I would also do a lot of weird stuff. Like we would kind of do the whole nose to tail situation at the restaurant. So I like all that kind of stuff. But I think I'm just more of a, to be honest, my favorite stuff to cook is a, grilled meat with a salad. Like I'd eat that every day. Like
me too, man. Simple but well seasoned and cooked properly is all I really need in my life.
Oh crap! Now Owen has replied to my dad. Could be my mom though, because they both use the same Facebook account. But Owen is requesting for pictures of the rat tail.
I need to see this rat tail.
I don't remember this, so I'm not denying it, but I don't remember it.
We got a whole conversation about Canadian cast iron pans going too.
Yeah, Canadian cast iron pans take longer to heat up. That's just because it's colder here, Usyk. But
at least I apologize if they get too hot.
Yeah. Well, Owen, my dad is going to look up to see. He's going to go looking through some photo albums and see if there's any pictures of me with a rat tail.
That's amazing. I think it was Dr. G was asking if this is a Canadian cast iron. I found this. If you've ever seen a TV show called Hell on Wheels, it was about like mid 1800s railroad building in the U.S. But I bought that at the set sale because there's a lot of film that's made around Calgary, and so a lot of that show was filmed around here, and they just had like all this old cast iron cookware, and a lot of it was just cheap lodge shit that you could get anywhere. But this guy, really, really smooth. The only other pan I have that's this smooth is my Finex, because that like really rough cast iron's no good, but this stuff is fantastic.
Yeah, that's where you hear about people grabbing like a palm sander and like buffing out the insides of their.
Yeah, I think if I was going to be an Iron Chef, I'd do like just diner food or something.
Yeah, you'd be like the I don't know if who exists on Iron.
Still there, Chris? I can't hear you.
I'm here. Yeah, but we got kind of it looks like the signal isn't great. I thought that was right, Everest. I thought that.
Sorry, guys, I can't hear Chris.
I don't know. Can anyone hear me?
Can everyone hear me?
Iggy can hear both of us. There we go. Looks like the problem is just between Nathan and I. So that's good.
There we go. I can hear you now.
Can you? That's good.
That's my head.
Okay. That's all right. Okay. Sorry, everybody. So what do we got? You got your blender, you got your garlic. What about, so those are some good questions. I did know that there was I knew there was a cast iron factory out in Carleton Place, but I wasn't sure what it was called, but you know, you do see signs around here with the name Findlay on it. There, yeah, there's like a whole neighborhood not too far from me called Findlay Creek.
Yeah,
Well, that's neat, Ted.
If anybody ever sees them, I would buy one in a heartbeat. If you ever see them in a thrift store or something, grab it.
Yeah, I don't get out of the house very much.
No, me neither. I just sit in my kitchen making kimchi and other weird shit.
Yeah, yeah. If I'm not here in this store, I'm probably in my house reading a D&D manual or playing pretend like most normal adults do.
Trevor said I was muted. You can hear me, right, Chris?
Yeah, I can hear you. You're a bit louder now. I don't know what you just did, but you're a little bit louder now. So
Test.
it should be good. No, you're good. You're good. You're good. You're good. Edgar, I am currently sharpening my knives, but they were not dull, but mostly lost the real sharp
Okay,
edge.
well, you guys can hear me, and I can't hear Chris again.
Okay.
There we go. Okay, we got it.
Okay, cool. So we got a couple of questions here. Edgar is currently sharpening their knives. They were not dull, but just lost the really sharp edge. So
Yep.
You might just need a little bit of time on a leather strop. That might be where I start. See where that gets you. I find you'd be surprised how much life comes back into your knife with a few swipes on a leather belt or on a ceramic honing rod. It's pretty.
I'm a big fan of the chromium oxide on my strop, and I find that works really, really nicely.
So Edgar's asking that they use a 1,000 and a 5,000. What are the pros of an 8,000 afterwards? It's just kind of more of the same, to be honest, Edgar. You're going to find that the edge gets a lot smoother, and kind of when you're cutting, it kind of makes that like, this is a really weird way to describe it, but that like the ease in which it slices into something, it's just going to feel a lot smoother. You're going to have less resistance as you go.
Yeah.
So it's kind of just, you know, that 5,000 is going to do an awesome job. The 8,000 is just going to bring it up more, you know.
Totally. Well, yeah. If you want a knife to like cut like raw ingredients, like you're cutting sushi or something, I think it's really nice for that too.
Yeah. Yeah, something really nice and really smooth, right? Like you normally would bring up most 8,000, like, you know, a lot of carbon steels I always bring up to 8,000 just so they feel a little bit smoother. If you were working, like Nathan said, if you're working like with sushi or something like that, working with a lot of fish, you would almost definitely want to bring everything up to an 8,000 grit. Yeah. Yeah.
You can hear me okay?
You've kind of gone a little bit quiet again.
Okay. Computer a little closer.
There we go. Yeah, I think so.
Okay.
But you're not as loud as you just were.
Okay. My headphones keep cutting out.
So. Okay.
Somebody was asking what knife I was using in the hand, and I actually don't know who makes this one, but this is from the garage sale, and it's like a little single bevel paring knife.
Wow. I just thought it was a Mizu that had the shit kicked out of it.
That's what it looks like, and that's what I thought it was when I bought it, because it was before I worked at Knifewear. But yeah, it's just I use it for like butchering chickens a lot, and then I use it for little jobs too.
Yeah, everyone is saying, "Oh no, you're coming back." I think it's just a matter of. I think you're okay. I can hear you.
Yeah, sorry guys. I'm using an old laptop, so I'm trying to get this to work properly.
I think you're okay for now. I think you're fine for now. So, do we have any? Well, I don't know. There was a lot of good question there. I like that one about if I was going to design a knife, what would I do? I think that was pretty cool. I remember there was one time where someone had ordered, like custom ordered a knife. I believe it was a guy who worked in an abattoir somewhere in the Calgary area, had requested a knife from Saji. And it like the back and forth about this knife was pretty interesting. The guy would he sketched it on a piece of paper. He traced something out. He's like, I want it to be like this. And Saji made one and then sent it over, and it wasn't quite right. So the guy like made another drawing, and it took him about a year and a half to get the knife. I don't really recommend anyone trying to start this.
No, that was Alex. That was a customer in Calgary, I think.
Yeah, it was pretty. It was neat.
He's a neat dude. He's Greek Orthodox, and every spring for Easter they slaughter a lamb, and so he wanted something for that, basically.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So I've got a big chunk of ginger here. My recipe calls for a quarter of a cup, but it's ginger. I don't think you can use too much of it, so I'm just gonna just dice that up here.
That was really nice of you to peel it like that. You know, I wouldn't have peeled it. Fighting Usyk, those big stainless bowls that I use in the store, I think they came from IKEA. They've been here since I started. I didn't buy them. So they've been in the store for the last 6 years. I know I've got like 4 of them. But I'm pretty sure they came from IKEA. But they're huge. You'd be able to mix up your kimchi in these bowls.
You know, IKEA has some great kitchen stuff, especially some of the more utilitarian stuff. Like I said, these guys came from IKEA. They were like maybe $5 or $6 a piece, and they're great. They're like a big 2-liter sealer jar.
Yeah, that's what I use my. That's what I keep my curry in. Is one of those jars after I've made it.
Nice. We were talking earlier a little while ago about making vinegar. I've been making vinegars lately as well. This is a cider vinegar, and you can see it's only been going for about a week, but you've already got like a mother forming on the bottom there.
Nice. I remember, so when I did a stage, before I opened my restaurant, I did a stage down in Charleston at Husk for about 2 weeks. And they were all messing around with vinegars down there. They were making them out of cheer wine, which is like it's like a soda. It's like a cherry soda you can get it's kind of, you can't get it they say anything north of the Mason-Dixon one, you can't get it. But it's I've got 11 cans of it in my basement.
That's awesome.
I ration it out.
I seem to remember.
I don't drink a lot of coffee.
Well, Husk was one of Sean Brock's restaurants, isn't it?
Yeah. Yeah, he had 2. There was Husk. There was a Husk in Charleston. There was a Husk in Nashville.
Yeah.
And then there's another restaurant called McCrady's, which was more of like kind of molecular cuisine, whereas Husk was kind of more of what I liked. Like it was more of the kind of, you know, let's call it casual fine dining, elevated comfort food, whatever buzzwords you want to use.
Well, yeah.
But it was more of that, you know, like
just simple food done well.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. I saw a message a while ago. I can't remember if that was from Voog or someone else, but they were asking about this tattoo. They asked who the lady on my arm was, so I got Medusa up there. And then this is Skyla, and it was a monster from the Odyssey, from Homer's Odyssey, sorry. Old Greek monster. What do you got for good tattoos, Chris?
I got a few. I've got, I don't know, this one here, that's my big kappa. That's the King Kappa there.
I like that one.
I got that after, actually, because that's what Sheba calls me, is the King Kappa.
That's a pretty good name.
So I got that. Yeah, after I went to, I was in Japan with Shibata-san and Kevin. I got that tattoo when I came back.
Yeah.
No, I got a bunch.
Just collect them after a while.
Yeah, someone asked one day, like, how many tattoos do I have? And I'm at the point now where it's more like hours spent.
Yeah, right.
Than it is number of tattoos.
Just like, percentage of your body covered.
Yeah, which isn't nearly as much as you think it is. Like I don't have very much on that. Siren, by the way, is not for me.
Are you sure you're not burning anything?
No, I don't have. I'm freezing in here. It's like since the fire department came, it's like they turned off the furnace.
You don't get to be warm anymore.
No. Oh, Fighting Usyk had to run. Well, it's good. They're always a
All
blast.
right.
Yeah, Ted, I'm kind of in dollars spent, hours spent mode. My arms are mostly covered. I got a couple on my back, a couple on my legs. See, I went for all the hard spots first, like when I was younger. That's when I got my hand done and my knuckles done and my neck done, because I knew that as I got older, I wouldn't be able to sit still anymore.
I mean, people think you should wait forever until you're covered in tattoos, your hands and neck done, but that's not like by the
No.
time you get to that age, you won't be able to handle it.
No, it hurts too much. Like even now, like I've got stuff. I've got tattoos that are in the works, and I'm not excited to get them finished because I've turned into a big wuss. It just hurts too much now.
Yeah, me too, man. Trevor S says he's cooking with us, trying to make gluten-free naan bread, and it's a train wreck. I feel you, Trevor. My spouse is celiac, and most gluten-free cooking baking at least sucks. It's tough.
My mother-in-law is celiac as well, and it's something that I've tried a few times. We were talking before, I think it was the other day, I was talking with Chris about a cornbread recipe. I've got a pretty good gluten-free cornbread.
Yeah. I find like batter.
That works pretty well.
Batters like cornbread or pancakes, it's easier to fake. The difficult thing is anything you need like a gluten structure for, like bread, is tough. But even like pie crust you can fake pretty easily.
Yeah. There's a couple good gluten-free bakeries around here.
Nice. Which ones would you recommend for any locals?
Anyone around here? We've had a lot of stuff from a place called Strawberry Blonde Bakery. They've expanded the past little while because I've got like my mother-in-law is celiac and I have a nephew who is as well. So it's always if we go to the going over for dinners and birthdays and stuff like that. Like even for for one of my daughters, we just got a gluten-free birthday cake for her just so we didn't have to make anyone feel weird. You put enough chocolate in it, it's fine, right? But yeah, Strawberry Blonde has been really good.
Cakes are not bad. You can fake a cake pretty easily, I think.
Yeah.
Oh, good question there from Dr. G. You should pop that one up.
There we go. If I had to get a knife tattoo, what knife brand and shape would it be?
Easy.
Well, Moritaka, that's a good one.
That's just such a cool knife.
Yeah, my Kiritsuke, my Moritaka Kiritsuke might be a good one. I think there was a time where, remember when Fujiwara went to visit Calgary?
Yeah.
I had convinced Kasumi that I got that silhouette, like, that sticker, the t-shirts of Fujiwara that we have.
Oh, yeah.
I had convinced Kasumi that I had that image tattooed on my butt cheek in honor of his visit.
That's amazing.
And she pulled me aside one day. I was like, "Did you really do that?" Like, I think she was like, she wanted me to show her my ass. I wasn't going to do it. I had to tell her, like, no, I didn't do it.
When Fujiwara was here, after he did his engraving and the shop closed down, we all got to sit around and ask him. He was very, very nice to just sit and answer questions with us for a couple of hours. Mm-hmm. But about 20 minutes in, he was like very distracted, like clearly like not focusing, and he just like leans over to Naoto, and Naoto's like, "Oh, I'm sorry, Fujiwara-san's just not used to seeing so many tattoos. Can you guys like show them off so he can like kind of see what each of you have done, because he doesn't get to see them very often."
No, well, because in Japan, like a tattoo is not something that the average person has, right?
Yeah,
like even when I
young
was
people with them now, but not traditionally.
Yeah, but for the most part, like only criminals would be tattooed in Japan, right? That's why you can't go. Like there was when I went, and Kevin and Shibata-san and the Takafu blacksmiths brought me to the onsen. They had to sneak me in because of the obvious tattoos I have. If I had tried to go myself, they wouldn't have let me in.
Did they just pretend that you were three kids in a trench coat or something?
It was almost like if you ever played I don't know about the newer ones, but the older Assassin's Creed games where you like sneak into the crowd. That's what they did. Like I put my hands in my pockets and like kind of looked at the floor and just shuffled while like Ikeda and and Kato and Kurosawa. All these guys just kind of like walked around me.
Around you.
Just like kind of shield me.
Except you're probably like a foot taller and much whiter.
Yeah, it wasn't as effective. It looked ridiculous. At least I think it did. I was very drunk.
That makes it even better. Just I feel like you were just bumping into them like a pinball.
Oh yeah. Well, just imagine. I'm like that anyways.
Yeah.
But imagine me drunk and in Japan, you know? I'm trying to think. I'm not sure what. Oh, Edgar is asking. When I visit friends for dinner, I often get asked to help because I'm the guy that cooks a lot. Saying instead of their €100 knife set. Edgar, are you asking for a recommendation as to what you could get for your pals? I'm sorry, I think I missed the first half of your question. And then Adam is asking, how is the Ishime Moritaka different than the AS?
Right.
So here's the thing. So Ishime is the name of the finish on the knife. Ishime means rock face. So it's referring to that kind of that Kurochi and Tsuchime finish. So Kurochi being the fact that it's dark and black, and Tsuchime being that hammered look. Now that traditionally is a finish that the Moritakas would put on outdoor knives. They would only
on outdoor knives, right?
Yeah, they would only do it on outdoor knives. So Kevin saw it, thought it was really cool, asked if they would be so kind to put it on a kitchen knife for him, and they did it. Now the Ishimes are made with blue number 2, so Aogami number 2. Traditional, like I guess scientifically speaking, blue number 2 is not as hard of a steel as the AS, but the process in hammering that finish on the knife does the kind of the cold hammering that they call it, does bring up the potential for edge retention. So.
Yeah, and I find my Moritaka really does keep its edge super well. And it's just cool, right? Like we're the only ones in the world that they make that finish on the kitchen knives for, and it was the first time in 700 years they had ever done that.
Yeah, and so now in the last garage sale, we did see some AS knives, so Aogami Super knives from the Moritakas with the Ishime finish. So I don't know. I think that's something that's just going to kind of pop up occasionally. I don't think it's something that they're going to do long term.
Yeah, it's like a special.
But I don't know really. Yeah, that was a favor. Yeah, well, Adam, the only way that you can get a Moritaka Ishime is if you go to their house and knock on the door and you happen to be a Japanese person, because they won't sell it to a gaijin like me.
Dr. G says Rockface is his nickname too.
Nice.
Okay, we got some good another good tattoo question, which I'm into the tattoo questions because I actually haven't got a tattoo in a year and a half. I probably would have got one last year, but wasn't really a thing.
Yeah.
So what food or dish would you get tattooed?
I had a food tattoo, but I covered it up.
Well, you had the food tattoo that everybody has. Yeah.
Yeah, I had a pick. Now, in my defense, I had the first one I saw was the one I had. It was either I don't spend a ton of time on the internet, so it might have been as popular the whole time. I just never saw it before. I thought I was being very creative, but I had a tattoo of a butchery chart for a pig on my forearm, but I covered it up because I don't cook any. When I left restaurants, I was super burnt out, super bitter. So I kind of didn't want to look at that every time I used my left hand anymore.
Yeah. Yeah. I think you were probably the first of your generation, and then a bunch of people my age probably thought it was cool and saw you with it and decided they wanted to get it.
Yeah. I do have, this is kind of food related though. I don't know if Dr. G's ever seen this one. This is actually if Nathan was a fish. It's a trout wearing a little hat. I gotta take this big shirt off so you can see it. Oh, shut up, Sean.
I'm really into like old drawings of game birds. I would probably get like a duck or a pheasant. It might be a bit cliche, but I would totally get like a duck or a pheasant done.
So here's a rainbow trout in a dapper little vest with a bow tie and a hat, and it says just trouting about. So that's kind of food related. Yeah. No, I didn't put a cloche over it. That's what it's underneath this whole scenario over here. There's a pig underneath this boy who's this little farmer.
Are you talking about yourself, Chris?
Maybe. I don't know. It's getting deep now, guys.
Good deep cuts.
I gotta put my flannel shirt back on. It's too damn cold in this store.
So we're coming along pretty well. My cabbage has gone down by about half its volume, so the salt's really had its effect. You can see there's a bit of a brine starting to form there. And a lot of people, after they finish salting the cabbage, might just drain that brine out. But I really like the extra water because all the like fermenty soup that ends up at the bottom of your kimchi is really delicious and really good to just like make your instant noodles a little spicier and more delicious, or just kind of use in sauces. So I like to keep it in there.
There's actually a really good there's a guy I went to culinary school with, lives in Calgary now. His name's Dan, and he owns the North Sea Fish Market. I don't know if you know him.
No, but I want to.
Yeah, I know his wife is Korean, and she makes kimchi and like kimchi soups and things like that for the that they sell at their fish shop.
Oh, cool! That's awesome.
I don't know my way around Calgary at all, but it's called the North Sea Fish Market.
Cool.
Kevin says it's good. Kevin says he's been in there.
Nice. So I got some garnish going too. Rather than just cabbage, I like to have some julienne carrot because it holds together a little more and gives you a little bit of crunchiness. It's especially good if you're going to add your kimchi to like soups or like instant noodles. Just gives you a bit more texture. And then I really like the green onions in kind of long pieces too. They get really kind of slimy, but I really like the like slightly crunchy, fermented, slimy green onions. They're just delicious.
Yeah. I often go ahead.
Go. I was just gonna say, Mount Everest says kimchi juice is a major key for kimchi fried rice, which I've never actually made. So I'm gonna do that once my kimchi's ready.
Yeah, I haven't made kimchi at home. I've made it like when I worked at the Wellington Gastropub. I made it a few times, but I'll just buy a jar of it at the grocery store, and like I'll do the same thing, like fried rice, pop it in like noodles, that kind of thing. It's a little extra something, you know.
All right, I'm gonna blend this up. I'm gonna mute myself because you guys probably don't.
Yeah. There we go. So he's muted. Maybe he can hear us. Maybe we can make fun of him a little bit. But why don't I'll mention a couple other, let me talk about like the Operation Come Home thing for a minute. So a lot of you have been watching the videos kind of pretty regularly, and I really appreciate that. But for those of you who don't know what we're up to, it's Japanese Knife 101. It's Knifewear's, several times a week, Ask Me Anything. But I work with a charity here in Ottawa called Operation Come Home. They work with the at-risk youth is the term that we use, but in layman's terms, it's homeless people, and we're doing what's called the $24 challenge. So I'm going to do my groceries tomorrow, but from Monday to Sunday, I'm only allowed to spend $24 on the food that I'm going to eat. And the reason why it's $24, well, we're trying to raise some money for the charity. So I know Nathan has put it up on social media a couple of times, some links for where you could donate if you wanted. Kevin wrote a really great blog post about what we're doing. But $24 is all the average client of Operation Come Home has left over once they've taken care of all their bills. So, they're in community housing. Well, the city or the government takes X amount. They got to buy even with a subsidized bus pass, whatever the case may be, the average amount they have left is $24. So tomorrow, Alex and I are going to go do our groceries because he's doing it too. We're probably going to do a little bit of a live stream on Instagram or something like that as we're doing some shopping. And well, I don't know. We'll see what we come up with. I have a feeling I'm just going to eat a whole lot of beans and rice all week. I know Kevin has been putting a little more research into it. He's trying to come up with a bit of a plan. You know, he's talking about like buying a dozen eggs, and then he's got like lunch figure, like, I don't know. He's going to the dollar store and all kinds of places, but I don't know. I think worst case scenario, if I screw up, I'll just make a big donation. And, but you know, if anyone wanted to, you know, if you were able to donate, it would be much appreciated. If you're not, if you could just spread the word, that would be pretty awesome too.
I was going to say, there's, if you head to knifewear.com and you go to the blog section, if anybody wants to donate, or if you want to throw it in the comments, Chris, I think the newest blog has the links in it to your Kevin's page.
All right. Well, one thing I'll recommend is if you want to donate, you should donate to Kevin's campaign, not mine, because Kevin had gone out and said that he would make a donation himself in the amount that he raised if he screws up and spends more than his $24.
Even like 5 cents more than his $24.
Yeah, if he's any amount over, he's going to shell it out. So,
and he's getting up there. I think he's set a target of $3,000, but I checked like 3 or 4 days ago, and he was up at almost $2,000.
Yeah, you know what? I'll look it up while we're.
Yeah, if you want to keep filling some time, I don't know if we have any more news to talk about, but I'm just gonna finish up blending here. Somebody said Vitamix for the win. Ted Lane said Vitamix for the win. This thing's awesome. This is not a piece of equipment that a lot of people can afford. My amazing grandmother got me one as a wedding gift, and I'm loving it. I'm still a bit of an amateur, so don't at me if I'm not using it properly, but it's awesome. It rocks.
I only just learned what don't at me means.
Ted, thanks for tuning in, buddy. We'll see you next time.
I'm just trying to find that blog. Oh, there it is. I found it. I'm not very good at using the internet. There we go. Well, here's Adam Yarbo is asking, do you know if Makoto Kurosaki is planning to do more knives of his own? I know he's primarily a sharpener, but has a few lines of his own now, and who forges his knives for him. I believe Makoto does some forging. I wouldn't quote me on that. That's a better question for Kevin or Naoto. But I think Makoto makes more outdoor tools than he does kitchen knives, and I think he makes some kitchen knives here and there for the garage sale. And maybe when Nathan's done blending, he might know more about that than I do, because he's the one who writes up product descriptions and such. So,
yeah, what's that?
But that's my understanding. Just with Makoto Kurosaki, any plan? Do you know if he's planning at all to do, like, he'll do knives periodically, Adam, but I don't know if he's planning on doing like a regularly stocked, like a knife line. I don't know if he's equipped to do it.
I don't know.
My understanding, he does more outdoor stuff. Like he does like hatchets and stuff.
Yeah, I know both of the Kurosakis really like to just like experiment and not get super tied down. Like they're not ones to settle down because they're young and they're experimenting. Yeah. So they're trying out a lot of different stuff. And like Kurosaki always seems to have a new knife out. But I would ask Naoto, like, tune in if you haven't before. I can't remember. I think it was Adam. I don't know if you've tuned in on Fridays, but Friday at 4, we hang out with Naoto. It's called Naoto's Nerd Hour. And he talks primarily about knife sharpening and really intense, nerdy knife sharpening stuff. But he also answers questions like that. So if you could fill you in.
And then Dr. G had a last tattoo question. What beer, wine, or spirit label would you get, and where would you put it?
I'll be right back. I know exactly what I would say.
Oh, he's going to get you an answer. I don't know. I don't drink as much as you probably as I look like I do. What would I don't know. You say you show off yours there.
Well, there's some really cool old school like French wine labels that are pretty fun. Actually, I've got two answers. One sec, I'll be right back.
Okay, he's gonna go get the other answer. I don't know. What do I drink? Yeah.
So for a while, I'm a huge fan of absinthe. I also drink less than I used to, but I still really enjoy, good wine and spirits. But absinthe is probably my favorite spirit. And this is a French remake that's just got really fun, like kind of, I don't know if it's Art Nouveau, but what style it is, but I guess kind of like impressionist labels. And I would totally they've got one with a black cat on it, but I also really like this label.
Yeah.
What about you, Chris?
I don't know. I don't know if I would get a beer, wine, or spirit label. I think that actually might be where I draw the line.
Yeah.
Yeah, which is kind of funny because I've got a lot of like real dumb ones. But I don't know that I feel strongly enough about a type of drink that I would go for it.
Yeah.
I don't know. Maybe I'd get like a funny little like moonshine jug or something. That'd be
that would be fun. You get some ones that were kind of more like I like spirits and beer and stuff with good art, like the Unibrew stuff from Quebec. They've got some really fun labels.
Yeah. I really like.
I would get done.
Oh yeah, I have a bottle of that on my counter at home. I haven't drank it yet.
Well, share it with somebody because it's like 10%.
That's what I hear. Yeah.
I'm going to talk. Go ahead.
Yeah, no, you go ahead. I was just going to talk about drinking.
Me too. I want to talk about Buzzcut for a sec, because there's this company in Calgary called ABC Bees that raises awareness about urban beekeeping and sustainability around bees. And we sponsor 2 beehives through them every year. And at the end of the year, Elise usually gives us about 100 pounds of honey. So this year we gave a bunch of it to Highline Brewing. These guys there in Calgary, they're just one door down from the Calgary shop, and they made a beer. Rather than doing something predictable like a brown ale or something, JJ did a honey apple sour. And it's amazing, even for people that don't really like sour beers. There's been some really positive feedback. They sold out right away, but it just came back in stock. So they've got bombers like this available at Highline Brewing. So if you're in Calgary, you should get your hands on some.
Yeah. We had some showed up here in Ottawa, and it just mysterious appeared as people bought things during Christmas. And sometimes that happens.
We definitely didn't give it out to customers because that would be illegal.
No, that's illegal. But a bunch of it went missing. I don't know what happened. Al probably drank it all.
Probably.
Yeah. I guess Dr. G, I'd probably get like a funny little like moonshine jug tattoo. I think that would be good. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, I used to drink a lot more. I'm not like a teetotaler or anything, but I don't drink very much anymore. Maybe a couple times a year, really, like that little.
I got to the ripe old age of 29, and I realized that if I kept taking really bad care of myself, I'd probably die earlier than I wanted to. And I want to have kids and do a lot of shit when I'm 40 and 50 and 60, and being physically impaired isn't going to be very conducive to that. So I've kind of started eating better and exercising more, and I still drink as much as I want on the weekends, but I try to take the week off and take better care of my body.
There we go. So
yeah. So
what do you got? You got your goop made yet, or what?
Yeah, I got my goop made. There's a lot of water that come off of this. I actually added some of it to the flavor paste just to thin it out a little bit because it wasn't blending super well, and I didn't want to water it down too much. So I mean, this is gonna all end up in the same place, anyways.
Yeah.
Kimchi smoke. Don't breathe this.
But you did. So.
I helped him. No, actually, it smells pretty good. It's. I mean, it smells like fish sauce and ginger and garlic and spice. It's pretty straightforward. So I've got my cabbage that's all salty and wilted. I've got my green onion and my carrot.
Yep.
And then I've got the third ingredient, which is all the spices. And I'm just gonna
all the goop.
give them a good mix. Look at that. Holy. We got any more questions from the audience?
Doesn't not too many, no.
All right.
Not
Do you
too
come
many.
up with anything you're gonna cook next week, or are you just gonna keep it real simple?
Well, it just depends on what I can do in the store, right?
Yeah.
I'll figure something out. I'm kind of nervous about.
But
I don't know if a bill has shown up or anything. Like I've been worried that they're gonna they've sent a bill.
Oh yeah.
For a false alarm bill. So
there's
I haven't really gotten in trouble yet, but I'm sure if a bill shows up, I'll have gotten in trouble.
So there we go. And my hands are nice and clean, and I don't have any like rings or shit on, so I'm just gonna give it a stir now.
You're gonna want to wash your hands well after.
Oh yeah, yeah. I'm not gonna wanna go to the washroom after this.
Yeah, or touch your face or anything. I've done that way too many times in my life, using hot peppers, and then you go rub your eye or something stupid. I don't learn.
I think that's the main reason I don't wear contact lenses anymore.
Mm.
And I take out my contact lens and burn my eyeball off, and then the next morning I'd go and put them back on, and they'd still be spicy.
You look like you've done a pretty good, like your rate. It didn't really look like it, but you were measuring everything out, eh? Like, because your ratio of like kimchi goop to vegetable looks pretty tight.
I wasn't super strict, but I do have like quantities in my recipe, and I follow them loosely, right? Like you don't need to be on the dot like you are with baking, but I wanted to be somewhat precise. Yeah, I think it worked out pretty well.
You think you're going to get that in those jars? You think that's going to work?
I'd put money on it. Let's see.
See if he gets on the podium at the Culinary Olympics.
Very true, Mackie.
Yeah, we had said that, Mecki, but we were more polite about it.
All right.
Well,
so, we're all mixed up. These are jars. And I'll bet you I'm gonna fit all of this into 2 of these. What do you think?
Let me see the other jar. Put the other jar there. I'm gonna make the screen
same
bigger
jar.
so I can get a good look. Yeah, I think you can. I think you got it. Dr. G is asking if you've ever fermented in vacuum sealed bags. I have. Back when I worked in the restaurant, we had a vac sealer, and I had done a little bit. I was only kind of starting to get used to it. I'm not really much of a kind of out of the toys and gizmos. I never really had much use for them. But I had an immersion circulator, and I had a vacuum sealer that I used when we were kind of getting our fried chicken going at the restaurant. Although I wouldn't, if I were to reopen that restaurant, I wouldn't bother with that stuff. I would just, it was fun to play with and whatnot, but you know what? I wouldn't even buy whole chickens anymore. I'd just buy chicken thighs, to be perfectly honest.
Right, yeah. I mean, that is the best thing to make fried chicken out of, let's be honest.
Yeah. But imagine if you went to, like, because you would eat at Union. Like, imagine if you just got, like, 2 chicken thighs instead of, like, that pesky white meat. You know? Someone's going to buy the white meat. You know?
I mean, there's always somebody that's going to want to eat white meat, right? For whatever reason.
Yeah.
But I would prefer the chicken.
Yeah, but I did do it, Dr. G, and it's a lot of the same stuff that Nathan's talking about. I used to use the vacuum sealer for like compressing fruits a lot. I like that.
Yeah. Like forcing a quick marinade or something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I used to do that a fair bit, but
Yeah.
I think you've got it.
I just like doing things kind of the old-fashioned way, and whether that's just me being stubborn or old-timey or a hipster, I don't know. But
Yeah.
and I'm trying to be conscious, and this isn't me on a podium, like do whatever you like to do, but personally, I'm trying to use less plastic and less waste. So I like jars because you can reuse them about 20,000 times.
Yeah. Dork has a good question here. Do you buy large cuts of meat and cut your own steaks, or do you buy pre-cut steaks in a store? I don't do as much, but I know Nathan really does a lot of butchery at home.
Yeah.
I don't do it as often anymore. If I'm gonna buy a steak, I'll buy it. I have a friend who owns a butcher shop, and I'll buy it from him.
Yeah.
I do a lot of like during the summer, I've got an offset smoker. And we've got these Traegers here in the store right now,
Oh yeah.
courtesy of a new friend, Rakesh. And I generally buy I'll buy briskets. I'll buy briskets. I like pork shoulders, things like that. I'll buy whole muscles like that. Very rarely, I'll do it every now and again. My mom will call me and say, "Oh, ribeyes are on sale at Costco or something. Will you come clean it up for me?" And I'll do that. But I guess we eat a lot of the same stuff all the time. At my house, on my grocery list, there's always like chicken thighs, sausages. I might, if there's something on sale or if I get a call from my buddy Alex, I'll, oh, we just got this in or whatnot. I'll go over to the butcher shop and that. I'm more than capable of, if I ate more steaks, if I grilled more at home, I would probably just do that myself. I did it during the last lockdown. There was beef tenderloin on sale. And I picked up a couple of whole tenderloins and portioned them and that kind of thing. It's nice to stretch those muscles every now and again.
Yeah.
But
I don't do it as often as I would like, but I really like it. I enjoy the process of it. I think one of the big differences, Chris, is maybe that you've got 3 children to take care of, and I haven't had any kids yet, so I still have some free time for that kind of stuff.
Yeah. Yeah, I just kind of I don't find I don't like to do a lot of I don't cook as a hobby very often anymore. Just because where I had done it for so long.
Well, and I think I got out of it a lot earlier than you did, and I never traumatized myself with owning a restaurant. So
yeah, but I still like doing I like my barbecuing and things like that. So Dr. G, I've got 3 kids. I've got a 6-year-old, a 10-year-old, and an 11-year-old, and we're a blended family. So the one that came with me will only eat it if it's fancy, and then the other 2 are the complete other side of the coin. Now that's what it was like when we first kind of all moved in together. It's almost like I was making 2 meals for every meal. But now everyone's it's kind of evened out a little bit. We're not using cheese slices. I'm buying decent cheddar and things like that for the grill. I also know one of my kids is also on the spectrum, so I can't push too hard. There are certain things that I just will never be able to feed this guy.
Yeah, you want to keep him in his comfort zone to some extent.
Yeah, right? I push him a little bit here and there. We do a lot of what I call, no thank you portions. But, I kind of respect those boundaries too. But they've come a long way. But yeah, the daughter I've had the whole time is, if it's not fancy enough, like we can't get this kid to eat a bowl of Cheerios. Like it's a fight. She won't do
I'm
it.
afraid my kid's going to turn out like that. Like everything has to be seasoned properly and spices and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah. So it's So okay. So you do get it. Like green beans, Dr. G, not happening. Doesn't matter what I do. I can't.
Green beans, the devil, eh?
Green beans have caused, like, it's like in the old Calvin and Hobbes cartoons. Like he would always talk about the spaghetti incident or something like that. And then they would never ever talk about what he had actually done. It's kind of the green beans are like that in my house. But what I do, and I don't know if this helps at all for any kind of parents or whatnot, I'm just very honest about what I put in it. I just tell him, I know what he'll eat and what he won't. Like, so for instance, I made meatballs yesterday. And when I got home from work, and they should be having them for supper now. But I said, okay, there's Parmesan in it. There's garlic in it. I chopped up parsley, but it's real small. You're not even going to know it's there. And like, I just kind of go through it bit by bit. For stuff like onions and whatnot, I make sure I chop it small. This is where everyone gives me a hard time about, is the extra cut in an onion necessary? I cut them very, very small so my kids don't notice them.
Totally. Yeah, if you're feeding kids, especially with like a meatball, you don't want big chunks of onion in there.
No. So, no, I found that worked really well with him, and I kind of respect the boundaries that he set too. I know what he will and won't eat. But these days, like, it's like we've been living together for, I guess, almost 3 years. And he'll tell me, I always ask him, what did you think of this? And he says, he's like, I don't love it, but thanks for making it. And yeah, so it's like, I have nothing to complain about.
Like just having an honest conversation, treating them like adults probably makes the most sense.
Yeah. Now it doesn't work with the 6-year-old. She'll still like refuse to eat Brussels sprouts, and you just got to send a 6-year-old to bed hungry a couple times. And they know you're not messing around. So.
All right, check it out. He said it couldn't be done. What we got? 2 big jars of kimchi.
Where's the other container? How much did you leave in the container?
Nothing. I rinsed it, but that's it.
Holy shit, he did it, everybody.
Now, this is about as full as you'd want to fill these. Ideally, I probably would have even had a 3rd container, and I maybe would have filled them like up to where this curve starts, because this is going to be an active fermentation, especially because it's living in my kitchen. It's going to, like, when I open this in 2 days, it's going to pop and spew and kind of gurgle, kind of like an alien egg or something. So having headspace.
Yeah, you're going to have to burp them.
Yeah, we're going to have to burp them. So I guess I'll get into science for a sec here. What's happened is we got salt, and the salt we got enough salt that it's going to stop certain bacteria from growing that we don't want, but not so much salt that it's going to stop the lactic acid bacteria. And once they take hold and start producing lactic acid, they're going to kind of shut out any other nasty bacteria. You can still get some molds, but as long as you're careful and keep an eye on it, you'll be fine. Generally, you're fermenting, you want it to be anaerobic, so you don't want air touching the main ingredients. And so usually you'd have it submerged in brine. But I find with kimchi, having it covered like this, I mean, there's enough spice in there to kill off a lot of stuff too. So I just make sure that there's a good amount of liquid, and that's all I really worry about. And I'm going to ferment it. Oh, go ahead.
I was going to say, that's the big part. Like when if you ever made sauerkraut and they put them in the crock with the weight on top. So the weight pushes the cabbage down so it sits below the water. So there's also this old cookbook I've got. I can't even remember what it's called, but it's from Eric Repair, who's the chef at Le Bernin in New York. I don't even know if that's around. I don't even know what restaurants exist anymore after the last
McDonald's?
Year. Yeah, McDonald's made it.
Yeah.
But it's this stuff called piqué, and it's like a very watery kind of hot sauce condiment. But you make it. It's made out of chili. You make almost a tea out of pineapple scraps. So like the skin of the pineapple, the core of the pineapple. It's almost like you make a pineapple stock.
Yeah.
And you take fresh chilies and you jam them in a bottle. you make the you make this pineapple stock, you pour it into the bottle over top of the chilies, and I think there's garlic in there too. And then you put it in a wine bottle, and then you put about an inch of oil on the top of it, and that serves as your airlock.
Oh yeah,
it's kind of cool. I made it one time. It's really good.
Yeah,
it goes well with with pork and things like that. Yeah. Iggy is saying you can get an airlock valve that will allow for built-up gas to escape without air entering.
I have some for fermenting like beer and stuff. I just I'll be honest, when I ferment food, like lacto fermenting, I'm very laissez-faire with a lot of this stuff. My mom just gave me one of these that she just found at like a market, and it's just a glass fermenting weight. So I'm going to try that out on one of them and see if there's any difference between the two.
Now, there's one for a lot of this stuff, and it's a shame because Dr. G is asking about a pH meter and stuff.
Yeah.
When we moved the store into Vancouver, and we still had the pop-up on East Hastings.
Yeah.
A few doors up from the store was it was a cool store called Homestead Junction. They had all this stuff. They had stuff for like urban beekeeping and keeping chickens and fermenting and making cheese. They had everything, but it looks like it's closed.
Oh, that's a shame.
Yeah, but they had a lot of cool stuff. I know Mike really liked it. I liked it in there too. Like I bought a couple books and that kind of thing.
I don't worry too much about pH when I'm fermenting. I do make my own kombucha, but I usually make sure that I've got a certain amount of the last batch in before you add the new one, because you do want a certain lowness of pH so that certain other bacteria can't take over the colony. But if you have like a back slop that's like about 1/5 of it is your old kombucha, or if in the case of making vinegar, your old vinegar, that's enough to kind of shut out any other bacteria that wants to set up and hang out.
Yeah, I know that pH meters are really important when you're canning tomatoes.
Yeah.
Because it's all about acidity, right? Well, so I don't know. Here's like some like day one culinary school stuff.
Yeah.
There's an anagram. I remember this because I sometimes teach at a culinary school, but there's an anagram for what causes food to spoil, and it's fat tom. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
So FATTOM, and it's the fat content, the acidity, the temperature, time, oxygen, and moisture. So those 6 things are like what you can control, right? So when you're like with tomatoes, for instance, well, there's no fat. You probably add a bit of salt, but it's the acidity is the big one. That's why people stress out about botulism with canned tomatoes.
Yeah,
is because if it doesn't have any of that other stuff.
Yeah.
Right. So.
And like sauces in general, like when I was in school, we'd learn how to make like, butter chicken sauce and can it, but we'd have a pH meter so that we could check that the pH was under a certain amount, and that's what shuts out the botulism. Otherwise, you'd have to add some lemon juice or some citric acid or whatever.
Yeah.
I know I would like to get a pH meter at some point. Good ones are a little pricey, but I think like $100 you can get a good one. It's definitely on the list of stuff I want to get. But otherwise, you need like a pressure canner. If you're like canning stocks or something like that.
So no, those are good. Yeah, like I know Don Penny, the famed Don Penny of Japanese Knife 101.
Where is Don today? What the heck, Don?
I don't know. It's Saturday. Saturday is probably just like being normal.
Probably living his life instead of listening to us while he works.
Yeah. Well, these guys are all pretty cool too, though. We shouldn't.
I like these guys.
But I know Don had recently got a pressure canner, and he's been goofing around. He's also Don is a real newfie. He's not a fake one like me who moved away when they were young.
Yeah.
But like, so Don's got like bottled potatoes and stew, and he's just been screwing around with a lot. Yeah. So. Mount Everest just donated to Kevin's fund.
Oh, thanks.
That's pretty nice.
Nice.
That's very nice.
Dr. G was talking earlier about like fancy equipment, like vacuum sealing, and you brought up immersion circulators. If we're talking about fancy food equipment that we want, I could take or leave all the fancy newer stuff. It's super fun stuff to mess around with. But if I'm getting like some fancy food equipment, I want like a pH meter and a pressure canner and like a deli slicer and like a cheesecake. Like I just want old school stuff that I can make my own like deli meats and stuff with.
Yeah, that would be cool. Everett, one of the worst things that can happen during the fermentation is the introduction of the wrong molds, right? The wrong molds and the wrong bacteria.
Yeah.
Things that are blue and green are usually bad.
Yeah. Or black.
Like when I made my hot sauce, I got a little bit of that like bloomy white mold on top. It's not generally harmful, but it does affect the flavor of the meat or of whatever it is you're making.
Yeah. Mount Everest, you can also like fermenting can be messy sometimes. Like if you're fermenting in one of these guys, make sure you set a reminder for yourself to burp them every day. Because if you just leave it, if I left this for 2 weeks, depending on the grade of the jar, it could blow up. Like the lactic acid bacteria not only creating acid, but it's creating a lot of CO2.
Yeah, a lot of carbon dioxide. I haven't dry aged meat in a long time, like not since I had the restaurant. It's hard to do a good job. I think a lot of people do it, like a lot of restaurants do it, and if they're not set up properly, it's kind of a shit show. Yeah. To be honest, like leaving a big cut of meat unwrapped in your fridge where you've got kegs and stuff is it's gross if you ask me. You'd want to make sure that you've got, like when I worked at the gastropub, we had worked to build a little like secondary fridge in the basement where all we used it for was like curing and things like that. It's expensive to do it properly.
Yeah.
So it's fun. I know you can get these like dry aging bags now. I've seen those advertised. I've never used one, but I think I've heard good things about them. People seem to like them.
But I've never used too. Like you need to keep an eye on it and make sure you're following the right processes. I think if you're making cheese, like proper sanitation in your kitchen's a lot more important. So you want to make sure you have the time to dedicate to it. Fermenting, if you forget to ferment for a couple days, like the worst thing that's going to happen is it's going to get too mushy, or you might open it and it kind of spills out everywhere. But it's a pretty like low level of commitment. Same with vinegar. Like this is literally just 3 cans of Rock Creek apple cider and some old apple cider vinegar, and it's already turning into a weird concoction and already smells like vinegar. Super easy.
I want to do that. I use a lot of cider vinegar at home, so I should probably try to make my own.
Yeah, it's super easy, man.
Because that's what I use, like when I'm smoking. Like that's what I like spritz the meat on the smoker with, is usually cider vinegar.
Right. Yeah.
So I buy it in like 4-liter jugs, right? It's always the shit too. Like it'd be nice if it was good stuff.
Yeah. The same thing. Like I usually get even like this stuff. This is good. The Bragg stuff, but it's expensive. Like I'm cheap, and I like to just, if I can make it myself for less money. Like I don't make bread because I want to mess around with sourdough starter. I don't do any of that. I'm just cheap, and I hate plastic bags, so I just make bread.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah. But before we get more questions, I just want to mention real quick. Got our dark kimchi. You're going to ferment it for probably between 1 and 2 weeks. You're going to want to burp it every day. Just open it. You'll see in the next couple of days, it'll get really bubbly inside, and you'll see it moving around. You might even want to open it twice a day at that point, and set it on like an oven tray or a casserole dish, because it is going to, like, it can even leak when it's closed. And when you open it, open it in your sink. It's going to be messy.
It's like when you've got a sourdough starter.
What's that?
Like when you've got a sourdough starter, like sometimes they just like, they get excited and they bubble over.
It's a little too warm one day or whatever. Gets going.
See, I'm not very good at that kind of stuff because I'm not particularly patient. So like I'm okay to like make something like and like let it sit and set, but it's like I can't keep a garden. Someone asked that earlier in the week, like, as a former chef, do you like to grow your own food? And I was like, I'd love to, but I forget to water things. Like I do well with like a children and a dog because they
Good.
because they remind me when they're hungry. Like,
Yeah.
That's a good idea. Mount Everest asking if you could take pictures or short videos throughout. Yeah. Nathan's in charge of the Instagram account and stuff. So you've just made his days easier.
I'm going to take a picture right now, and then I'm pretty bad at remembering this stuff, but I'll take a picture every day, and then I'll just post the progress to Instagram on the story every day. And then, just keep an eye on it there. And then tune in. I'm going on vacation in the middle of February, so maybe let's aim for like the Thursday.
Okay.
In about 2 weeks, and I think that's like the 11th, and we can come back and we can show off our finished kimchi and taste it, and maybe do a different kind of fermenting. If anybody wants to see something else fermented, let us know what you want to see.
Yeah, no, we could always use things to talk about. If we run out of things to talk about, Kevin gets the dad joke book. And as much fun as Dr. G finds it, I find
give us something to talk about so Kevin doesn't bring out the dad jokes.
Yeah, if Kevin gets his joke book, it's like shit's gonna just fly off the rails. So
yeah.
Blank. The thing I was talking about, dry aging their own with doing your own meat and whatnot. I've never used one, but I've heard about these bags you can use to like dry age a cut of meat. I like I said, never used it. I don't really know if they're any good. I've heard they're good, but I can't really endorse it. Any experience I've had dry aging meat, like I've done it a couple of times in restaurants, but it's expensive to get like the proper setup. You've almost got to have like your own, like just a fridge designated to it.
Yeah, well, it's kind of like making your own miso or any of that stuff, cheese or anything. You really should have like a bar fridge for doing it in.
Yeah.
Well, while we're answering questions and stuff, I figured I'd just bust out this. I got a top sirloin that I got yesterday, and I'm just going to cut some steaks and throw some, because we were talking about dry aging meat, and I've never dry aged, but anytime I have a steak that I'm going to be grilling up, I'll just salt it liberally and let it sit uncovered on a plate overnight, and that I find really improves the texture and the flavor.
Yeah. What do you got?
Yeah, just a top sirloin.
Oh, cool.
Nothing too fancy.
I don't know what blank means. Make a pressure cooker from a hole in the ground with some rocks and dirt, and I think pine tree branches. That's kind of cool. I'll check that out. Korean pork belly rhapsody on Netflix. That sounds all right. I like pork belly a lot.
Yeah.
I'm like 90% pork belly.
I love pork belly, man. I could eat that just about every day.
That looks like a pretty decent roast you managed to score.
Yeah, it's not bad, man. It was on sale at Co-op, and that's how I usually buy my meat, is on sale. So I just wanted to do. We're just gonna grill some steaks, like Saturday night. Like me and my partner and my roommate like to do like a bit of a nicer meal. So this is just a top sirloin with a lot of fat on it, which is always a good thing. And then I just got a bag of like large prawns that were on sale. So we're just gonna have
some surf and turf.
Yeah.
And then you can put butter on your shortbread cookies when you're done. That's something everyone needs to know about Nathan, is that his caloric intake is disgustingly high, yet he is very thin.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like I've seen him sit there and spread butter on a cookie and eat it.
That's so. I can't believe other people don't. It's a secret to my spelt form.
Yeah, he's gonna outlive us all too somehow. Oh, that sounds good. Blank. Grass-fed New York strip. I could go for a steak today. I won't be able to have one next week. I'm like tomorrow. I think I'm gonna eat my face off.
Do it, man. What are you gonna eat?
I don't know. I'll just talk. I might get a big friggin' steak. Two of the kids are off on their other. The troublesome children, the ones who make it hard for dinner, they're going to be at their father's house. So I could get something.
Yeah,
I could
man,
get
live it
something
up.
good. Yeah.
Have a steak and some prawns.
Oh, Dork says if skinny people eat a lot, they've got worms. That
I
could
didn't say
be.
I didn't.
Nathan. Yeah, that's true. He didn't. He didn't say he didn't have worms. So, I also like a good roast chicken too. Just roast chicken with some potatoes.
Yeah, I was gonna
I'm
say
not hard to please.
when we were talking about cutting meat and butchering and stuff, I do more of that at home, and I butcher my own chickens quite a bit. But I do love just getting a whole chicken and just salting and peppering it, and throwing maybe some butter in it, and just roasting the shit out of it in the oven, having a nice crispy roasted chicken.
Yeah, I might do that. Yeah, it depends on what the grocery store has. Because I got to do my family's groceries tomorrow, and then my $24 groceries. So, yeah, I'll probably. Yeah, I'm now that we're talking about it, I might go a 2-pound steak to myself. You're just dropping it.
Do it, man.
Well, here, I'm gonna let you salt up your steak. I'm gonna start our little outro because it's getting to be that time. It's 6:05.
Oh, lady, as ever.
Yeah, so we're gonna be back. We got 3 Japanese Knife 101s next week. And yeah, Everest, it is going to be a wildly depressing. Yeah, and Voog, that's what I'm going to eat. Beans, rice, garlic, and onions. I'm going to eat that 3 times a day for 7 days straight, I think. So we're going to be back on Tuesday, Thursday, and Saturday next week with Japanese Knife 101. The folks in Vancouver are doing their sharpening class at, I guess it's 7:15 Mountain Time.
Correct.
Which is 9:15 Eastern. But it's 6:15 if you're in Vancouver. But they're doing our more we call it our beginner knife sharpening class. But I think they try to make their way through a pretty standard sharpening, and then they get a little wild. And then we got Naoto's Nerd Hour on Friday afternoon. So we got 5 shows a week. We're always open to suggestions if you want to see something or you want to have a conversation about something in particular. We are always open to suggestions. You can, a couple of you have taken me up on it. You can send me an email, chris@knifewear.com, or if you need a hand choosing a knife out, or you've got a bit of an issue with maybe you placed an order online and hasn't shown up on time or something like that, you could send an email to hello@knifewear.com, and that'll get your help a little bit faster. I'm not the quick. I'll get back to you, but I'm also not the person you want trying to figure that out for yourself. I'm not too useful when it comes to the website. But if you need a hand picking out a knife or something like that, then we'll be all over it.
Yeah.
And I guess Blank says that Naoto's going to talk about natural stones next week, so that's fun. Yeah. I should watch that. I could stand to learn a few extra things about natural stones.
Yeah, me too. I'm excited for it because I don't know. I mean, it's just like all black magic to me.
Yeah.
I got
nice magic.
I got a bit of news. Starting Monday, at our sister brand Kent of Inglewood is our annual fragrance sale. So all the colognes and perfumes and stuff are 15% off, and you can come into the shop, but you can also order online, and you can even order samples online if you want to try out a scent and you don't know what's going to be right for you. We can just send you some testers and you can give them a try.
Yeah, and if you're in Ottawa and you'd like something similar, just send an email to, I guess, hello@kentofinglewood.com and let us know that you want to pick up a few in the Ottawa store. We don't have quite as much as the Calgary shop does, so but we can help you find something. Alex actually has a nice collection of fragrance at home. Knows quite a bit about it. So yeah. But yeah, I don't know. That's all I got. We talked about Operation Come Home. We talked about some new knives coming in. We got some
Kevin's back Monday or Tuesday, I guess. He's off.
Kevin will be back on Tuesday. He'll be in day 2 of the $24 challenge as well.
Yeah.
So.
And you guys are going to be sharing some low budget cooking tips.
I guess, yeah, beans and rice. See, now one of the big things that like Alex and I are going to do is because we're doing the challenge together, we can spend $48 between the two of us.
Yeah,
that's a lot different than only having $24. It doesn't
Totally.
sound like a big difference, but that means that he and I can buy bigger bags of rice. We can,
Yeah.
you know what I mean? We can buy things in bulk a little bit more. Whereas, like, you know, someone who's just going on $24, like, I wouldn't be surprised if Kevin is eating, like, you know, canned beans and scrambled
Yep.
eggs every day.
That was something I learned when I was living paycheck to paycheck, was if I can afford to, buying something in like a 10 kilo size. It was going to last a long time, but it was also going to be way cheaper than just buying, you know, a little, you know, 1 pound bag of rice every week.
Yeah. Yeah. It makes such a difference, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Blank Blank is saying if we had to pay, and I do, you know, Blank Blank, salt, pepper, butter, oil, any of that is included in that.
Coffee. Yeah.
Just, you know, try to figure it out. But yeah, so like that was one of the things they said. There's no Top Chef pantry available, so we just have to manage. And Everest, I'll probably buy, if I can find it, I'd probably buy Calrose rice. That's the one I like the most. I like the Japanese rice.
I buy a few times a year. I just buy like the giant bags and I just put it into this big Cambro.
Yeah.
And yeah, short grain Japanese rice, so good. It makes really good fried rice too, which is another good like budget meal. Just like an onion and a couple eggs, and if you have any leftover meat or veggies, fried rice, that'll fill you up pretty well.
Yeah, onigiri maybe.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, so I don't know. Stay tuned. We'll see what happens. I'll probably be real friggin' grumpy on Tuesday, Thursday, and Saturday. So just so everyone's aware, I might say a couple extra bad words, but you know, we keep showing up anyway. So I'm starting to feel like I can do no wrong anyhow. So
yeah. Hey, Dr. G, I'm glad you tuned in and got some info out of this. I hope everyone learned something. I've mostly learned about fermenting from trial and error, but I love sharing knowledge about this kind of stuff, I think, as we all do. So anytime somebody's got questions or you want to know more about a topic, let us know. Again, like, I'd love to do another fermenting show in a couple of weeks or whenever. So if anybody wants to discuss the topic, we'll do our best to make it happen.
yeah, and I guess blank blank. I suppose I could go to a food pantry if I wanted to, but I don't know that I don't think I'd feel very good about that. You know,
Yeah,
those
there's
aren't really,
people that need that a little more, I think.
yeah. If worst case scenario, I just admit I can't do it, and then I'll just donate money to Operation Come Home. That's my plan. Like if push comes to shove, I'm going to give them some extra money and say I'm sorry I couldn't do it. So, but I think I got a plan. So I don't know. I'm gonna hit the off button, but we'll see everybody on Tuesday. Thanks for hanging out, Nathan. Thanks for watching, everybody.
Hope you guys had a good time.